Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov Chess Channel and welcome back to the Norway Chess Tournament in 2021. We're now in the second day. Yesterday it was already incredible what happened. Alireza Firouzja and Magnus Carlsen already played against each other. Magnus Carlsen managed to get the draw in the Armageddon game, so it meant that Alireza Firouzja lost the game against Magnus. Now in the second day it's not even slightly better here for Alireza Firouzja because he has to play now against the World Championship Challenger. So Alireza played yesterday against the World Champion. Now he faces the World Championship Challenger, which is really wild. And what happened in the classical time format game is actually that Firouzja got the draw, which meant that of course these two players have to play this so-called Armageddon game. So Alireza Firouzja has 7 minutes on the clock with the black pieces and Nepo has 10 minutes on the clock, but Nepo has to win the game with the white pieces, which is now of course a huge problem if you don't know what you do. If you maybe play too passive game, if black manages to find some drawish lines, then of course black is winning the game. So that's why, what should you do when you're trying to win the game? Here Nepo pulled off a brilliant opening. He pulled off the King's Gambit against Alireza Firouzja, and I think that Alireza Firouzja loved Nepo's choice because Alireza is also a great tactician. I think Alireza loves the open game, the tactical game, so that's why it was a brilliant tactical game. Now in the King's Gambit, be prepared, this is really something else because it's not so often that we witness a King's Gambit game in top grandmaster level. So let's check out now what happened here. As promised, e4 by Nepo, we have e5 by Firouzja, we have now f4, the King's Gambit move, and here we have the King's Gambit accepted. So no really woozy stuff, no really passive play here by both of these players. Here after e takes f4, of course the game becomes already wild. So here after move e takes f4, knight to f3, we have here the normal stuff. We want of course to grab the center with the move d4. What actually always white is gaining when white plays a gambit line, or maybe with black plays a gambit line, what you always get is of course when your opponent recaptures. It can be also, for instance, in the Queen's Gambit declined or Queen's Gambit accepted lines after d takes c4, is actually that white always gets two connected pawns in the center. So it means now that white has at least the pawn center control, which means white has two pawns in the center against one black's pawn in the center, because the only pawn that black has in the center is of course the d pawn. So that's actually the main goal of any gambit, to get simply two connected pawns. We have to say it, when it comes to computer relation, the King's Gambit is always better for black. And I liked also now Alireza's choice, because many times when I analyze some Stockfish games against Lila C0, the two top engines, Stockfish choose to play here this move, knight to f6, challenging immediately the e4 pawn, and here in the continuation e5 is the most natural continuation. We have now knight to h5. I really love this line because you have always this tactical ideas with queen to h4. If the knight of course leaves somehow here the protection of the h4, then we could have really a nice position. Then with knight to g3 also some tactical ideas, because then you couldn't recapture after maybe g3, knight takes g3, then h takes g3, then the rook is of course hanging on the h file. So that's actually the main tactical goal now of Alireza Firouzja's line against the King's Gambit. We have now d4, we have now d6, d5 is also an opportunity, but again I think it leads into this line, e takes d6. Here if you take bishop to d6, queen to e2 wouldn't be such a good idea here for white. I think black can slow down the pace of the game by simply trading off the queens, because when the queens are off the board, then of course not so many tactics are possible. So I think that's a line that white should really try to avoid. So after move d4, here d6 play by Alireza, he creates now also a dynamic position in the center. He challenges of course the main space advantage that Nepo has built here, which is of course the e5 pawn. We have now here queen to e2, and now after d takes e5 we have knight to e5. And here actually the fun already starts, because here Nepo allowed Alireza Firouzja to play this move queen to h4. We have now really the wildest move g3, we have knight takes g3, and here after h takes g3 we have queen to h1. And okay, after bishop to f4 we're stopping a little bit and we are evaluating the position, because it's obvious that of course black is up the exchange. If black gets out of this attack, black will probably win the game. But a huge problem is I think the lack of development. And the cool part about Nepo's game, although the evaluation is +1 for black, but black needs to play really perfect tactical game in order to get out of this mess. Here after move bishop to f4 we can notice I think the great piece activity. The knight is on a centralized square, the bishop is on an active square, the queen is on the e file where already the king is. And I think most of us, if we would have faced the position here from black perspective, maybe you can be the judge of this position and maybe choose to play here a normal move. And I think 99% of us would play here the normal move bishop to e6, which would be, I think, the main defensive move, because we're a little bit vulnerable to this attacks here by the queen on the e file. But actually the move bishop to e6 is a huge blunder, and unfortunately here for Alireza, he played that move. As I said, it seems in the beginning it's the only move that you can play in order to defend, but actually it's the main mistake, because the only good move I think here is the move bishop to d6, because there are now several choices what white can do. White can play this move, knight to g6, but this move is actually not the problem, because this discovered deck, okay, you get one check, we can cover now with the move bishop to e6, okay, you take your rook on h8, you have your fun, but now with bishop to f4, g takes f4, knight to c6, actually black is slowing down again the pace of the game. I think a King's Gambit player doesn't like when the game gets more and more simplified. That's actually what black is trying to do. Black is trying to slow down the pace, as I said, try to trade off more pieces, try to maybe trade off the queen, simplify the game as much as you can, because after knight to c6 it's obvious that this knight is not coming into the game anyway. So that's why in the potential continuation, maybe queen to g2, okay, we can take and we can take out this pawn, maybe you can take out this pawn, but in a couple more moves this knight will be taken. And the good part of this particular line is actually that black is here a dominant position on the king side by has here this 3 versus 1 situation on the king side, and will probably win the game. What you could do is maybe also to play here the move knight to c4, another discovered attack, but then king to d8 is a good choice here for black. Knight to d6, c takes d6, and here after bishop to d6, okay, here we're threatening immediately checkmate, but here knight to c6 I think solves again all of the positional problems. Nothing wrong here with this position, although the king is a little bit naked, but also white's king has more problems I think too, because white's king cannot castle immediately, has to play also some different ideas. And now in the continuation, bishop to h3 would be, I think, the main idea how to even more trade off the pieces, and as I said, simplify the game. So what you could try here, as I said, after move bishop to d6, you could try also the move knight to c3, preparing maybe queenside castling, but again it's not such a huge problem because actually black can castle, and I think this is simply game over here for black, pardon me, for white, because I think that no tactics are possible anymore. So as I said, after move bishop to e6, here comes the actual problem of this particular line that Alireza played here. Nepo plays a brilliant move, knight to c3, because now let's see possible continuation. If you try, for instance, again this move bishop to d6, you see how losing a tempo in chess can cause you many problems, because it's now simply too slow. It's simply tempo that you lost in the beginning, and now after move bishop to d6 we can now queenside castling, and if you take now bishop to e5, then we have d takes e5. But the main issue is this idea. We have now the opportunity to play bishop to g2. That's the main issue, that's the main tactical trap that here Nepo has prepared. This wasn't played in the game, but I wanted to show you. If you try, for instance, now to play the move bishop to d6, if you try now to retreat with the queen, you get simply bishop to g2. You can maybe play here queen to b6 in order to protect your b7 pawn, but now with bishop to e3 again this game is over. Here if you try queen to a5 will simply take out. If you try queen to a6, then of course queen to a6, knight to a6, and now bishop to b7 is simply, I think, winning the game. So really wild stuff. What you could do is maybe recognize your problem with the move bishop to c8, but again it's not such a problem, because we can again simply queenside castling, and you see all of these pieces are activated. Again we can now play some discover attacks. Bishop to g2 is an opportunity. As I said, really already a bad game here for Alireza. So as I said, after bishop to e6, knight to c3, brilliant move by Nepo, but that's actually what we should do when we play the attacking game. We should include all of our pieces in the attack, which is actually one of the main rules of attacking chess. Include all of the pieces in the attack, secure the king, place your pieces on the best squares, activate the pieces, try to search for new opportunities, try to create dynamics. Really here Nepo applied all of the principles of really this most important ideas of the attacking chess game. So here after move knight to c3, we have now g5, d5 counter attack is also always a beautiful element of attacking chess, because you have sometimes sometimes in chess I think we simply retreat too much. Now with the move g5 here, Nepo says I'm not worried because I still have this e-file attack here. He played d5, g takes f4, we have now d takes e6, we have bishop to d6, but now after queenside castling we have now queen to h6 here. Nepo got challenged with this move, probably f takes g3 is now an idea, but here in the continuation bishop to queen to b5 played by Jan Nepomniachtchi is challenging now Alireza immediately. You cannot really cover in a good fashion because even if you try c6 it's not a problem. We can play now this one, e takes f7, you have to move the king, and now queen to b7 I think is simply winning the game. In the next move we simply take out this one and it's game over. Bishop to c4, then it's an opportunity, says that there's no good defense here for black. So after move queen to b5 in the continuation, Alireza tried knight to c6, but now knight to f7. We have now the fork on the rook and the queen because there was, as I said, this trap, this idea f takes g3, discovered attack, maybe include the queen somehow into the game. Now after move knight to f7 it's not possible. We have queen to e6, we have bishop to c4, again this attacking idea, including all of our pieces into the attack. Really brilliant move again by Nepo. Queen to e3, king to b1, but actually it's not a problem because the king gets more and more secured. We have queen to c5 and now knight to d6, check. We have c takes d6 and now finally queen takes b7. Queen takes c4, we have queen to a8, and now after move knight to d8, rook to e1, king to f7, and after queen to a7 again the king gets challenged. King to g6, g takes f4, queen to c5 here. Alireza Firouzja is trying to simplify the game, but now after rook to g1 in this position Alireza resigned. What's the actual problem? Actually it's a game in which you have to give up I think the queen if you don't want to get checkmated. You can maybe try here king to f5, but then again this one queen to d7, then you get this check, then a new check, then the rook comes again, check here, and with rook to f6 this is pretty much forced, it's game over. So brilliant game by Nepo. You see, I think this King's Gambit is still sort of an unexplored opening. I'm not recommending you to play the King's Gambit, but once in a while for fun, try it out, see where you're standing, how good in tactics you really are. Maybe you can surprise your opponent with this beautiful opening. As I said, I've covered many great games in the King's Gambit. If you want to check them out, here's the link of our whole playlist. Maybe you can study it. As I said, surprise your opponent because it's not so often played now these days. It's a really beautiful opening from the romantic era. Paul Murphy and Adolf Andersen and really Wilhelm Stein. It's all of these beautiful masters from the past play this very nice opening. So as I said, it's something that we should study sometimes and surprise our opponents with some brilliant tactics. So here's the playlist of our King's Gambit opening, and if you want to see maybe brilliant attacking games like this, check out my commented chess games played by computer series with some great games played by Stockfish, Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, and many more. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.